Thank you for being here and watching this video. If you enjoy it, please like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. I want this channel to be more than just a collection of videos. I want it to be a community where we explore fascinating ideas, discuss them openly, learn from one another, and grow together. So don't stay silent, join the conversation. To master your mental state, you must understand cognitive dissonance and how black swans or new ideas can instantly flip your picture of the world upside down. Imagine this scenario: you suddenly approach a well-known actor who has spent years portraying an absolute angel on screen. You expect warmth, but instead, he tells you to get lost with a sneer. In that moment, you feel as if your brain has simply stopped. Or perhaps a new book comes out. You read it, and suddenly it feels as if the world has turned upside down, and you've just discovered the ultimate truth. It is as if, prior to that moment, you were simply blind to the reality right in front of you. All of this is a state of cognitive dissonance, a psychological phenomenon that occurs when the internal picture of the world, formed over years of experience and education, flips because of a single situation or a revolutionary idea. This shift happens instantly. It occurs so quickly that the brain actually needs time to figure out how to respond to the new data. This is why we experience a kind of short mental paralysis. Even though the body can keep moving, the cognitive processing center is stuck in a loop, trying to reconcile the old reality with the new truth. This vacuum in the brain's command system is one of the most intense experiences a human can undergo, and it is a fundamental part of the human capital of learning and growth. The reason this feels so jarring is that our brains are essentially prediction machines. We spend our lives building scripts for how people should act, how systems should work, and what the future should look like. When a well-known actor violates the angel script, the prediction fails. Nassim Taleb wrote extensively about this in his work on unpredictability. He noted that for centuries, people in the old world knew only white swans, and were absolutely shocked when they encountered black ones for the first time in Australia. That's why he called major, unpredictable events that can overturn everything black swans. It's precisely this deviation from our existing worldview and from our assumptions about how the world works that creates a vacuum in the command system. We don't know what to do because the situation has gone off script, off the path that feels familiar and understandable. During these moments of cognitive dissonance, we often feel a physical sensation of discomfort. This is because the brain is consuming massive amounts of energy to remap its understanding of reality. When the world flips, we lose our sense of existential security. The familiar path is gone, and we are standing in the middle of a cognitive forest without a compass. This is why many people react to new ideas with anger or denial. It is a defense mechanism designed to protect the old model from the perceived threat of the black swan. However, those who understand the mechanics of the mind realize that this paralysis is actually a sign of potential. It is the brain's way of saying, the current map is no longer accurate. We must stop and recalibrate. If we try to push through without this pause, we risk making decisions based on a reality that no longer exists. This is why high performers and deep thinkers don't fear the shock of a world turned upside down. They welcome it as the necessary prerequisite for a higher level of understanding. We must learn to sit with the discomfort of the black swan, allowing the internal vacuum to be filled not with panic, but with curiosity. It is only by acknowledging that our previous vision was a form of blindness that we can truly begin to see the world as it actually is, rather than how we assumed it would always be. Developing emotional regulation through economics of thought allows us to transform the shock of the cognitive dissonance into a strategic advantage for personal growth. Once you accept that the world will always produce black swans, those unpredictable events that overturn our assumptions, you stop trying to prevent the shock and start preparing for the analysis. There's nothing you can do to stop the arrival of new ideas that challenge your core beliefs. They will always exist as long as humanity continues to explore and innovate. The only real option, and the most rational one, is to give yourself time to explore, to analyze, and to build a new model of reality based on the updated information you've received. In this state of mental paralysis, the goal is to shift from reaction to construction. When you discover a new truth that makes you feel as if you were blind before, you are undergoing a massive upgrade of your internal software. This is how human capital is built. By integrating the black swan into your worldview, you become more resilient to future shocks. You are no longer following a rigid script. You are developing a dynamic algorithm for reality. This process requires a high degree of intellectual humility. You must be willing to admit that your previous picture of the world was incomplete. Instead of seeing the well-known actor's rudeness as a personal trauma, you see it as a data point that corrects your understanding of celebrity culture and human nature. This analytical approach changes the chemistry of the experience. When you give yourself the permission to pause and build a new model, the short mental paralysis transforms from a state of fear into a state of growth. You are no longer lost. You are exploring. This is a crucial distinction for managing the complexity of life today. The meaning gap that often follows a major worldview shift can be filled with deep research and critical thinking. By engaging in directed attention, you can systematically break down the new idea and see how it fits with other known truths. This is how we avoid the trap of liquid modernity, where we feel constantly tossed around by the latest trends or shocks. We build a solid foundation by being the architects of our own reality. Think of this as a market correction for the mind. In economics, when a price has been artificially high for too long, a crash occurs to bring the market back to equilibrium. Cognitive dissonance is the mental equivalent of that crash. It is the system's way of purging false value, ideas and assumptions that were never true but were held anyway. While the crash is painful, the resulting equilibrium is much healthier and more sustainable. To survive and thrive, you must be willing to let your old ideas die so that a more accurate version of yourself can be born. This is the ultimate form of self-development. The ability to relentlessly pursue the truth, even when that truth makes you feel uncomfortable or blind. In conclusion, the next time you encounter a black swan or a book that turns your world upside down, don't fight the paralysis. Don't rush to restore the old broken model just to feel safe. Instead, lean into the dissonance. Give yourself the time to analyze the new variables. Understand that the vacuum in your brain's command system is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of transition. By building a new model of reality, you ensure that the shock doesn't become a crisis, but a catalyst. You become a person who can navigate off script, moving through the world with a sense of clarity and purpose that others who are still clinging to their white swans can only imagine. The ultimate truth is that reality is always larger than our assumptions, and the only way to truly see is to be willing to have our eyes opened again and again by the unpredictable beauty of the unknown. This is how you move from being a victim of circumstance to being a manager of your own outcomes, turning every cognitive shock into a stepping stone for your evolution. Thank you for watching all the way through. I really appreciate you being here. Let me know what you think about the ideas in this video, and feel free to share your own perspective or advice in the comments. I genuinely like to read it. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please like the video and subscribe. My hope is to build not just a channel, but a community where people explore meaningful ideas, exchange thoughts, and grow together. See you in the next videos. Bye.